Folks, I am here to bring you a bit of a unique video compared to what I've done normally. Few things to hop into. First though, I got a pretty badass new icon or a profile picture here thanks to the new Siege game mode, and I was checking it out and I seen that some of these avatars do definitely look pretty cool. I'm a huge fan of this lion looking dude with the glowing eyes though. It's awesome. I logged in today and I seen that we won the Siege battle, so it's definitely lifted my spirits a little bit when I got it from the Siege chest, as well as some of the shards, or fragments rather, for the new champion. I got 10 of those in total, which was pretty cool, and then also some decent gear so far too. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on Siege. I know when it was first released or announced, like 70% of the community was overwhelmingly negative in their thoughts on it. I'm curious if that's switched now that they've put out some patches and some new content related to it. Definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. And additionally, we've had an announcement for the Hydra as well, where you are essentially going to get participation chests, which is pretty cool. So you're going to be able to work your way up to getting chests very similar to this from what they've said. Very, very similar to the overall highest clan boss chest that you might be able to get there. Not highest clan boss chest, sorry. I think they were actually doing it based off of these particular chests here. So you'll still be able to get yourself something like mythical books, allegedly. More details on that coming, though. If they release something, I might make a video on it. We'll see. What we're talking about today, to get into the topic of the video, is going to be the best healers in the game. Few caveats about this list. This is going to be my personal opinion, and they're not ranked in any particular order. These are basically the champions that if I have them, I use them the most in a healing capacity, or if I don't have them and I were to get them, they are the champions that when I pull them, I would be like, oh my god, I finally got them. So let's go ahead and hop into it with one of the first champions that has been contentious for quite some time, and that is Marichka, the Unbreakable. Once she decides to finally load and join us here on screen. Now, I'll tell you what, Marichka is an interesting champion because I always hate creating thumbnails for her because of her helmet. Anytime I try to select her character icon, it always messes up a little bit because there's so much going on with it and it's so weirdly, like, detailed. But it is what it is. Her A2 is what we're talking about. Fully restores any allies' decreased max HP, then heals all allies by 40% of this champion's max HP. Considering she has almost 22k base HP with 110 speed, she can be insanely tanky and have an insanely good heal on this skill. Not only that, she's also placing a shield and a strengthen, and the shield is equal to 20% of her max HP, which is just absolutely insane. So this is very, very cool. She is definitely one of the champions I use the most. I'm using her in pretty much every live arena battle. I'm using her in like 90% of classic arena, and I use her in every single tag team arena battle at this point too. Not to mention bunch of PvE content, bunch of Sidious and Tranos. She is so useful everywhere inside the game. You're going to get a lot of use out of her. Next up, we have another champion who was contentious for a little bit, and that is Siegfried the Nephilim. Now, if you have a discussion about champions that are incredibly broken or OP, this guy and the next guy better be on that list, otherwise the list is incorrect and not worth listening to. So Siegfried does quite a bit of cool stuff. So he fully heals himself on his A3 if it kills an enemy, and this hits incredibly hard. He does a ton of damage with it. He then also has a heal on himself, so he heals himself by 50% and fills his turn meter by 100% when he's about to get killed. Like before that, he blocks the incoming damage. He places a block damage, so if you go to hit this guy and kill him, he's going to block that damage. He's going to heal himself by 50%, and he's going to fully boost his turn meter, which can then go straight into his A3. But not only that, it gets better. On his alternate form, he also has a full-on cleanse and heal, so removes all debuffs, then heals everybody by 30% of their max HP, and places a block debuff buff on them for 2 turns. That is after he's already revived everybody with 50% HP and turn meter and placed the block damage for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. This guy is incredible. He's bringing so much utility. He also has a heal on his A1, so it's an AoE, healing everybody by 20% of the damage inflicted, damage based on attack. This guy has very decent base attack. He can make a lot of work happen. The next guy we are talking about is in the faction right next to him, and it is going to be Star Sage Galathier. Again, if you're talking about an OP busted champion list and this guy is not on it, you can safely click off that video. No need to listen to that person any further. They don't know what they're talking about, because this guy is not probably, I'm just going to flat out say it. This guy is without question the best reviver in the entire game. This guy is without question probably top 2 support champions in the entire game. So for somebody to bring that much utility to the team with these base stats is absolutely insane. What does he do? Well, he doesn't do a whole lot of healing, in all honesty, but it's the rest of his kit that really makes up for it. So essentially, he has a removes all debuffs, then heals them by 25% of his max HP. Again, similar to Marichka, over 22k base HP is going to result in a very chunky heal there. And he's also going to fill the turn meters of all allies by 15% and places a block debuffs on them for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. This guy is incredible. This guy can also keep himself alive. He can revive. He can do basically everything you want, including placing block skills and all that sort of good stuff. Star Sage Galathier is an absolutely insane champion. The next one we have to talk about is yet another mythical. So I know what you're thinking so far. It's going to be, is this just a video of mythical champions? I don't mortgage my house to spend on Raid Shadow Legends. Where are the rare champions? We're getting to that. There will be rares, I promise you. We're talking about Elves, the Sunbear. On his A2, he has a pretty nifty skill. Fully restores all allies destroyed max HP and heals all allies by 30% of this champion's max HP. Again, almost 24,000 on the base HP. Any sort of heals this guy is putting out are going to be absolutely insane. He also places a Strengthen and an increased resistance buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Very similar to what we've seen from Marichka, so this guy is absolutely fantastic and 100% deserves to be on the list. We have one next that some people might actually disagree with, and I kind of hope that you do. And an honorable mention here to Lady of Aith, because she is going to be absolutely insane once her A3 gets boosted a little bit. So she's going to also decrease the cooldowns of ally skills once she gets buffed in this upcoming patch. I couldn't put her on the list quite yet though, because I don't think she's quite good enough to do that, and we do have a champion very similar to her that does it a little bit better currently. But the champion I did put on the list instead is Eostrid Dreamsong, who is actually the Easter fusion for us. Her A3 doesn't have heals, her A2 does not have heals, and her A1 doesn't have heals. So you might be wondering, where the hell and why is this champion on a top healers list? It's because of her passive. So whenever this champion or an ally has their turn meter increased, heals all allies based on their max HP, the percentage value of the heal is equal to half of the turn meter increase. So essentially, if they get a 15% turn meter increase, they're healing for 7.5%, which is very, very good. It definitely doesn't sound like a lot, and there is a 1-turn cooldown on this, but when you consider that she's bringing a ton of turn meter increase herself, there's other champions that you can pair her with that do a lot of turn meter increase, like an Arbiter, for example. That healing really stacks up, and she's got a 115 base speed with a decent base attack too for a support champion, and she does a ton of damage. I use her all the time in my Hydra. I use her all the time in Live Arena. She is an absolute demon. I was very undecided on her when a fusion got announced, but I'm so glad that I went for it, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to have my opinion changed about this champion. Next up, we are talking about an epic. I told you there would be some epics and rares on the list. Here we go. This is Godseeker and Neri. Probably one of the most important champions if you are trying to progress inside the Sand Devils. Even still, she has an A2, which is going to attack everybody, healing everybody by 15% of their max HP, and decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies, and increases the duration of all buffs on all allies. On a 3-turn cooldown, absolutely insane. It gets better. She also has a heal on the A1. She has a revive and a reset skills on the A2, and she has a preemptive revive on death on her passive, which is absolutely insane. Godseeker Neri is hands down one of the best epics in the game, and probably top 2 epic revivers in the entire game, and I would say maybe even top 5 revivers in the game overall. She is absolutely insane. We next up have a champion from the Ogren tribes. This is going to be Mighty Uko, who doesn't, not Mighty Uko, sorry, Ugo. Very similar champions, very similar name. She's going to bring, of course, the decreased defense and block buffs, but more importantly, she's going to remove all hero reductions, then a random debuff, and heals everybody by 20% of her max HP. A little bit lower base HP, of course, under 20k, but she can still be built very, very tanky, and this does also work as a revive if everybody else is dead, so she is an incredible champion to use on your team as well if you need that role to be covered. We are moving on over to the Orcs next for one of the champions that actually helped to carry me through the faction wars, and that is going to be Vrask. Vrask is a pretty incredible champion. He has a passive that heals all allies by 10% of his max HP on a 23.5k base HP on an epic, by the way. So you're getting 2300 as a base heal on this, which is absolutely insane, whenever he inflicts a critical hit. Now, his A2 attacks one enemy, very basic, based on HP, A1, more importantly, fills this turn meter by 20% if this attack is critical. You're building him with crit rate anyway, so he's healing. Turn off his A2 in your presets, have him going on his A1 only and continuously filling his own turn meter. He's going to cycle through turns a lot faster. This guy can help support your team no matter where you are. And if you're struggling with the Orcs faction wars, he is going to be an absolutely insane champion to help carry you. This is going to be probably the only rare, not probably, this is the only rare that we have on the list, and it's actually going to be Tree Shield Knot. I made a video dedicated to Tree Shield Knot not too long ago. No pun intended. This guy is absolutely insane. A2 heals all allies by 15% and also places an increased defense on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Having a rare heal everybody, then placing an increased defense is already insane on its own. He's also bringing a 2-ally revive, though, with a heal as well. Or a shield, rather, sorry. And he's also bringing a triple hit decrease attack on the A1. This guy is an absolute beast. I highly recommend using him, and he also has a faction Crypts aura, too. So if you're struggling to get through the Sylvan Watchers faction Crypts, look no further than Tree Shield Knot, and he will help you out. Next up, we have yet another fusion, actually, which is Pythion, wherever he might be. I can't see him. There he is. Pythion has a lot of healing in his kit, so he has an A1 that's a 2x hitter, healing the ally with 5% of his max HP after each hit. This can actually change as well, depending on who's the lowest HP. A2 removes all debuffs, heals everybody by 10% of their max HP, heals an ally by an extra 5% of their max HP for each debuff removed from them. If you're removing poisons or something like that, you can get an extra like 20% heal out of this, which is pretty crazy. He also has a revive, of course, and some damage mitigation on them. Next up, we have a bit of an interesting one. This is actually going to be, wherever she might be, Sesha. Now, Sesha technically doesn't really heal. What does she do? On her A3, she equalizes the HP of all allies. The HP levels of all allies will be brought up to the level of the ally with the highest HP, then heals the target ally by 20% of their HP. So there is a little bit of healing in there, but let's think about how crazy this is for a second, okay? There's no 10%, no 20% of max HP, nothing like that. This champion straight up says, hey, you want to heal somebody? Okay, I'm going to bring everybody to the highest level of HP that's on the team. If you have a champion that is still at full health, if you have somebody like even within inside this faction, for me, for example, the way that I could use it is Ancora, built out in Stone Skin, so she stays at 100% HP with like 109k base, or not base, but built out HP. Sesha is going to straight up say, okay, we got this champion, she's in Stone Skin, she has full health, I am going to bring everybody else up to full health on your team. That's it, I don't care, everybody's now full. You combine that with the rest of her kit, and she is absolutely insane. They've tried to introduce some legendaries that do the whole HP equalization thing as well, but it has not come out quite as well as it did with Sesha, so she is fantastic. We're moving on over to the Undead Hordes next, I believe. Maybe not, actually. We're looking somewhere else. We are looking for... He's probably in this faction as well. He has Miscreated Monster. Miscreated Monster's A3 is going to place an ally protection on everybody for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, then heals him by 50% of his max HP, which is an absolute chonker of a heal because he has almost 23k base HP. And he also places a continuous heal on himself. You combine that with the stuns as well as the shields that he's placing, as well as another stun on the A1, as well as a decreased defense if there's a stun. This guy is insane, and he is doing damage based on HP, so he can do a lot of damage with that base HP, and you're building him with survivability the more you're building on his damage, which is absolutely incredible. We're going back to High Elves, second time visiting this faction. Some of you astute individuals will already know who we're looking at, and that is Apothecary. Apothecary has his A2, heals a target ally by 35% HP. This heal can be critical. Nice, straight to the point, simple skill. Build this guy with a little bit of crit rate, build this guy out with some HP and survivability. He's also bringing you a speed boost. He's also bringing you a 3-time hitter, so he is fantastic for the Fire Knight. This is on a 2-turn cooldown, by the way, on a rare. It's healing them by 35% of their HP, which is good because you can essentially get some huge chunks out of that, especially if it is a critical. And as you can see from the reviews, he has over 4 basically everywhere except Spider's Den. I don't know why he's rated so highly in like arena offense or arena defense. You don't want to be using Apothecary in your arena offense or defense these days, but he is an incredible champion, especially for progression inside the game. We're talking about yet another free-to-play friendly champion because she is a daily login, and that is going to be good old Syl of the Drakes. Now, Syl is an absolute beauty. She has a A3 which revives, but more importantly, she heals everybody by 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn. This is her turn in case it wasn't worded clearly enough. And she's also going to place a 30% increased speed buff on a random ally for 2 turns, which is absolutely incredible getting that speed. Keep in mind, you can't really speed tune inside Clan Boss with her because, of course, she is placing that on a random ally. It'd be cooler if it was like, you know, ally with the highest attack or lowest HP or something like that, but it is what it is. Syl is an absolute god tier beast, and I still do use her quite a bit on my account, even though I'm in the late game, end game area, so that says a lot about her. Next up, we are going back to, I believe this one is Knight's Revenant once again. Maybe. It is. It is Doom Priest. Now, Doom Priest has a passive where she heals everybody by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn, which is absolutely incredible. She's putting out so many heals. She also brings an increased attack for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown if that's something you want. If you have stun, sleep, freeze, provoke, anything like that, petrification, she has a chance to remove it, obviously, with that 1 random debuff. Absolutely fantastic champion. You combine that with the heals and you can really start to see why she is so highly rated. You put her in Clan Boss and you have her go first each round, and she is going to cleanse that stun with a 100% chance. She can also cleanse crowd control effects from herself, which is pretty incredible. If she's stunned, she's slept, she's provoked, she can cleanse it and still get her turn, which is absolutely insane. Next up here, we have an interesting one. She is one of my favorite champions. I know I said they're all interesting, but they certainly are. This is Lady Annabelle, and there's 2 big reasons I like her, and those are her passive and her A1. So her A1 heals herself by 3% of her max HP, and her passive heals her by 50% of her max HP whenever an ally or an enemy dies. And what makes this so good? Well, this allows her to essentially solo Baumel at all stages. Now, I do actually have a video talking about that as well, where I combined her with the Sun Wukong. You can find that video on my channel. I speed farmed it in like 2 minutes at the hardest stage of Baumel with just those 2 champions. Every time one of the bombs dies, she's going to go ahead and heal herself by 50% of her max HP, which is a bit of an issue for Baumel because the bombs only do 30% max HP damage. So she essentially just has no chance of dying as long as you have her built with the right stats. She's absolutely incredible. She's not the only champion that does this. There's also Burengiri from the Shadowkin faction. However, he didn't make it onto the list, in my opinion. She did. It is what it is. We have a champion coming in from the Shadowkin faction, I believe. I could be wrong on that, though. I think he's actually an orc now that I think about it. Let's go ahead and take a look. And this is another epic champion, and this is Tolf the Maimed. Now, I won't be surprised if a lot of you haven't heard of him. He does have an A1, though. Each hit heals this champion by 30% of the damage inflicted. That's basically all you need to know about him, is just his A1. This doesn't say it, but it actually cannot be critical, but it also cannot be a weak hit. So this guy is very, very, very good for the Phantom Shogun's Grove. This guy can actually solo all the way up to stage 25 of Phantom Shogun. I have my particular Tolf built out, and he's soloing all the way up to like stage 23. But if you have him empowered, and if you have him with some better stats, you can do 25, not a problem. And you're not worried about building him with crit rate either, because it can't be critical. So just turn off everything but his A1. He's healing himself continuously. He is absolutely insane. Not really too used for anywhere besides that, though, I would say. We have an Undead Horde champion, which is Vogoth. I would be very remiss if I did not include Vogoth in a list like this. His passive, whenever he's attacked, heals all allies by 50% of the damage received, only 25% if it's a boss, and he only receives half the heal that other allies receive. This guy inside a Guardian and a Freeze set, or a Guardian and a Frostbite set, rather, is absolutely insane for use in Arena. Anywhere that you're going against AoE damage, so Clan Boss, for example, anywhere that you're going against damage, just damage, this guy can help a lot. And he also has a Provoke and a Decrease Attack, so he's going to bring in some damage to himself, and that damage is going to result in heals for the rest of your team, which is pretty incredible. We are going all the way down here for the first time to the Dwarves faction, and this is actually going to be Detha. Detha has a pretty chunky heal on her A2, so she's going to heal everybody by 2.5% of her max HP, sorry, their max HP, heals by a further 2.5% max HP for each turn added to or removed from the duration of buffs and debuffs by this skill. So she's increasing buffs, decreasing debuffs. She is, of course, going to enable you to do some pretty crazy things in the Clan Boss as well, but she can also put out those big heals. And because of her A3, she can also be very adept at going ahead and keeping you alive in the, oh my god, I cannot, the Iron Twins as well. And she also does place a continuous heal for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, so almost 100% uptime on that, except on herself, of course, on her A3, which is pretty crazy, and a shield on her A1. Fantastic champion. And lastly, we are actually going over to the Skinwalkers, and we are going to be talking about Hackhorn Smashlord, a champion that I recently pulled and have not built out, but is A2, removes all debuffs, then places a block debuff on all allies for 2 turns, heals all allies by 15% of his HP, which again, this guy has almost 24k base HP, heals each ally by an extra 10% of this champion's max HP for each debuff removed from them. This guy can put out some absolute insane heals. This used to be on a 4-turn cooldown. They went ahead and buffed it, so it's now on a 3-turn cooldown with a 2-turn duration on the block debuffs. This guy is actually pretty decent. He's also placing a shield. He's doing damage based on HP, and he has a stun on his A1. This guy is very, very solid. His reviews indicate that as well. He can definitely help you to stay alive, which is incredible. That is my list of the top 20 healers inside Raid Shadow Legends. Did I snub anybody? Is there anybody on this list that did not deserve to be there? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys all so much for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time.